finding out that we are holding the event here, not at the Nansen, but it's a nice cozy space for us to all have a conversation and to see the film. So this film, Les Oiseaux de Céleste, is actually a short documentary of a project that was to have happened here. Celeste has had several iterations of From Here to Ear, which, had it happened here, would have involved 40 to 50 live zebra finches in an open aviary. Celeste with several Les Paul guitars. Celeste was here last March on a reconnaissance visit, and we had to meet faculty, students, the university veterinarian, all people that we felt needed to be on board about this, and we got tremendous excitement, approval. We were thrilled. Late in the spring, we found out that we had to have all sorts of other things in the space, which would have really deterred from the sound. We would have had to put fans and input, output exhaust fans, which I guess many of the labs on campus do have. But in a museum, it presented a problem. And being a sound installation, we had to say no. But Celeste has, of course, come up with a beautiful exhibition in this place, a mesmerizing exhibition. So I hope you'll all have a chance to, if you haven't already seen it, spend some time with the current work. So Les Oiseaux de Céleste is the document of this film, a document of this project. And when he was here, he did meet with Remage-Healey, Jeff Podos and his students were on board to collaborate. So they're here tonight to collaborate. So this is our replacement for what could have been a semester-long project. I'll just mention that it is going to take place. We had a curator here last night from the Peabody Essex Museum. So Celeste's project with From Here to Ear with live zebra finches will be at that museum. We think sometime in early 2014. So we will, whoever is still on campus at that time, will make a wonderful excursion to Salem, Massachusetts to see this memorable event. We've been honored to have Celeste here for about 10 days working on the installation. Meeting with students in the art department. He's still here tomorrow, so anyone from other departments who want to meet with him, please feel free to, he's available too. And he really is enjoying the give and take with students, so please think about that. So Celeste's bio is on the wall out in the lobby in our entryway. It would take me a long time to go through the extraordinary 20, 25-year exhibition list that he's had of solo group exhibitions, but it's been an honor to have him here at the university. But I will introduce our three speakers, the people who will be in dialogue with Celeste. In alphabetical order, Jeff Podos. Dr. Podos is the director of the Podos Lab in the Department of Biology at UMass Amherst. His group conducts research at the interface of animal behavior and evolutionary biology, with a particular focus on animal communication. Research projects are conducted in both field and laboratory settings, mainly but not exclusively using songbirds as a model system. Currently, study species include sparrows, swallows, chickadees, warblers, finches, and grass squits. Podos Lab members are affiliated with two graduate programs, Organismal and Evolutionary Biology, the OEB, and Neuroscience and Behavior, NSB. Dr. Luke Remage-Healey is director of the Healey Lab in the Department of Psychology, where research is focused on the neural basis of natural behavior. He and his students study songbirds as their research model for understanding vocal learning and brain plasticity. Over 50 years of intensive study of songbird behavior and brain function have provided a detailed roadmap of the neural circuits that are involved in singing, song learning, and audition. Their lab is interested in how neural circuits for vocal communication are modulated by the actions of local neurochemicals. They study a wide variety of complex behaviors like singing, song learning, and song memory. And joining us this evening is a graduate student from the Department of Music, Erin Stewart, who was born in Paris, is a performer of contemporary and classical saxophone music. He's appeared in ensembles and as a soloist in venues including the Kimmel Center in Philadelphia, the Holywell Music Hall at Oxford University, the High Art Gallery in New York City, and Carnegie Hall. He's been a guest artist with the Temple University Symphony Orchestra, the Curtis Symphony Orchestra, as well as being an on-campus saxophonist for the Philadelphia Orchestra. He's performed the classical literature for concert saxophone, and he's also devoted a great part of his artistic energy to the dissemination of new music for his instrument. He's currently a grad student here in the Department of Music, and he's studying with Professor Lynn Clark. So, without further ado, I will invite, well, I think we showed the film first, and then we'll have our speakers come up front. Thank you. Moderator, so I ask you to pose questions to Celeste, and then conversation among all of you at the table. So, who would like to go first?
I can say something first. First of all, I think there's a real beauty and sense of pure innocence in this piece that really comes through in the sound. Listening just with the eyes closed for a little bit, you can hear the sounds of nature in a very amplified way. Although it did sound at certain points like Jimi Hendrix was burning his guitar at one point. But so my question for you is, what is the relationship between nature and technology in this piece? I think there's a long tradition in Western music of exploring nature, Vivaldi, Beethoven, Messiaen, particularly with birds. But in this piece, it seems as though you set something up and you allowed nature to create music by itself. So I'm wondering if you could say a few words about your approach to nature and the process of exploring nature through sound.
Yes, there is a kind of dichotomy about in the north country of Europe, because between what is nature, what is culture. And if the nature can be a model, you can use it so easily. But I'm coming from the south of Europe, which is very different. For example, what Italian people call nature is, I don't want to be inconvenient, but I mean, could be the genital party of the mother. This is nature. We call that in French, which you can say, I saw is nature. And then nature and culture for the Italian people is food. You know, and very old, because for contemporary in Italy it's difficult, very difficult, because they have to restore all the old monuments, and the budget for the contemporary art is very small. But things like that, very, I mean, brutal, and physics are making me doing things. I said yesterday that when I was a kid, I went to the conservatory, and I didn't understand at the time, I was 8, 10 years old, that I had to learn for theory, which was for me just to own an instrument, to look at it like a body, a sonic body was the principle. I had to follow, to stay in the same solfège class, and every year, because it was the rules in the conservatory, I had the chance to start a new instrument. So I had a large panel of doing things. But for me, it was like retrospectively, I did realize that maybe this is coming from the kind of innocence, but it took something like 25 years to start the project. At the time, I was not thinking about what is nature, what is culture. But I was thinking that maybe when you see a bird on the wire, it's like could make a sound. Everything could be transposed and things like that.
Well, what's particularly powerful, I think, about this production or this piece is the the movement, the rhythm of this natural creature being put to sound. So it's a regular image that we see every day, birds hopping around, all of a sudden is exploded with sound, and very familiar sound, the sound of a Les Paul Gibson through a Marshall, which is a very particular sound. So in that sense, bringing a new appreciation or a new sense, or resensitizing nature in that sense is extremely powerful.
But this was not the beginning. You know, I used to be composer for the company of theater, so and I was very lucky because my position in this company was not to compose music in relationship with a dramaturgy, but they asked me to have a carte blanche to do what I wanted to do, a musical project. And everything was fine. For 10 years I used to work with this company, with an author, a director, and he gave me this carte blanche. And many times I thought that we can replace these actors by tape recorders, things like that, and just let them go, because most of the time they put a lot of psychology into their play, and I think the simple presence in the stage can be enough for me. And also when I start installation work, to show my work, I dedicate it to the visitor as an individual, somebody who is coming into this space. And some people said it's very ecological, this project or something like that, but I know it's very ethological, because there is people entering the aviary and they're curious to see what is into the aviary, and then they make moving the birds, because the birds want to stay as far away as possible. And all the strategy for me is to control the number of perch, how they are high, and what are the source of interest for the birds: light, water, nest, and seeds. And birds like to stay in the perch. They go to the ground, but this is not what they prefer to stay when they fly. And I try to really and my feeling is that a perch, I mean a guitar, is a territory. As you saw in the video sequence, there is a couple, dominant couple, who annex totally this guitar, and if some other birds, finches, came to use this perch, they fight them.
So what's that like where you have, so from a biologist's perspective, you're relying on spontaneous behavior in the lab to kind of understand the animal's behavior, but to rely on an animal to perform as a piece of art is a whole different ballgame. So what's that like to be relying on a
First of all, I did the first piece in '95, and I did catch sparrows on my window in Paris, 25 sparrows, very wide birds. And it was just for something like half months, I mean just 15 days, 2 weeks. And then I had to understand, if you hunt if you go to the countryside to hunt, or if you want to find mushrooms, you need to be mushrooms a little bit yourself, you know. Then some people said, oh, you exploit the birds, you catch them, but they catch also in a certain way. I cannot say that they drive my work. I worked hard on this project to understand them and I let them go. When I was in New York in 98, 99, in residency in PS1, which is a museum who have residency program for artists from international artists or people coming from other countries. I decided to do the piece again. And this was not with guitar, this was with harpsichord string and coat hangers. One day, I was in Paris in a kind of a very popular area, and I was in a bar, and this bar had a window on the courtyard, and I saw young kids, something like between 6 and 10 years old, building a kind of barrier with coat hangers. And since I'm very a big fan of David Hammond, you know maybe this artist who is an African-American artist, I saw this coat hanger and I say, oh, this is David Hammond, white David Hammond. It's like it's in the street, you know, and because David Hammond used to take some situation and to put them to the museum. But I don't want to, I know that it's very graphic if you buy 500 or more thousand coat hangers you can hang and make a big structure which is very graphic. I had to wait until I wanted to, I found a way to make them sound. This took something like maybe 5 years. And before that, I had the only with long strings, the piece with the sparrows. And when I hang these coat hangers, I can really tune the piece and make a kind of spring reverb. I mean, something which is reverberating the sound through the contact, using contact microphone. And it happened that the fusion was made in New York when I was in New York. Between the two, my interest for these coat hangers and the situation for of the aviary. But I did the drawing with a guitar and the bird on it long time ago. Some people said you have been influenced by a Woodstock LP cover. I don't remember that. But for me it was a joke at the beginning. But since my first interlocutor as the music was at this time the music world, and I decided to do this with very prestigious guitars, and I had to wait for years to get them as I wanted. Not to burn the project or the wish I had to do it. Sometimes it's very important to be patient and to wait until you get the possibility to do what you want.
So I think that it really works. I think that there's, so if you're trying to look at the relationship between nature, natural systems, and music, there are lots of things you could think about, but I think that this really works well, and it's interesting to hear your discussion of the evolution of the project. And there's a specific reason why I think it works really well, and it's just a comment, but maybe it'll turn into a question, which is, so we spend a lot of time watching birds, and birds they're very manic, and they're frenetic, and they're anxious, and there's a lot of social anxiety. And you can actually see that a little bit in this clip where they're jumping back and forth, and they're very aware of who's around them and who's related to who. And so in real life, they're flying around a lot. And if you spend time watching birds, you get a sense of that. And for me, this setup that you have is literally amplifying that rhythm. And so when you hear it, you're feeling what those birds are going through. And you're sensing the sense of social angst and manic nature. You can see that with the bird that's trying to build a nest in the guitar strings. And which kind of reminds me of, who is it among people who are attracted to electric guitars? And it's teenage boys in the basement of their houses who are filled with social angst. The zebra finches are sort of like teenage boys.
Yeah,
I would say.
that's true.
So it really comes through. It's great. Yeah.
Music.
Are you the bird psychologist?
Oh, that was Luke who just left. Yeah, I'm a biologist, so we spend more time in the field watching birds. But universally, you could see that birds they're nervous Nellies, and it makes sense.
Is that a human interpretation, though? I mean, to say that birds are bad.
If you spend some time watching birds, you'll see that, so birds' lives
But
are,
if you look squirrel, you know, they're moving like a crazy speed.
it's hard for us to feel it, but animals in the wild, especially birds, are constantly in danger of starving to death or getting eaten by a predator.
Yeah.
And they rely on these social interactions, and you can actually hear these animals are very acoustically oriented too. So there's this nice layer of the animals being acoustically communicative on top of the fact that they're producing these sounds. So I say the bird sounds reflect very fairly the guitar sounds. They mesh. When we listen to this piece, we hear the guitar, but if you pay attention, you can hear in the background the sound of the finches. And
Yes, there is pattern, depend on what they do. For example, when a male is going to copulate with a female, it makes a very special sound because he make a dance around the female, and then it's really particular.
yes, and the females.
And when they eat on the, because in the first years I used to have metal plates connected to contact microphone, and when they eat, it's like they make rhythm. They don't take the seeds in one course. They make ta-ta-ta, some kind of pattern, rhythmic patterns. Yeah.
That's an interesting comment about the rhythm of the background sound of the finches making their own vocalized sounds. Coming again from the musical perspective, to me the big picture was there's sort of the rhythm. The birds provided rhythm, whether that be bouncing on the strings or their vocalizations, and then there's sort of the harmony of the tuned guitar strings. And so to me, in terms of musical parameters, that's what I heard. So another question would be, what tunings did you choose and why did you choose them on the guitar?
You know, I had a lot of experience about the compatibility of a chord or a kind of a tuning to another one. When I did a piece with vacuum cleaners playing harmonicas, they are very silent German vacuum cleaners. So I choose, there is 13, so you go from, I think it's a G to the high G. Mm-hmm. And then it needs to be a chord which can be transposed by semitones. And so there is not so many the tuning for the guitar, they participate from the same principle. Mm-hmm. I'm doing, it's for me it's music. I have to tune the amps and to adjust the amps to tune the sound. Now I have a piece with 10 guitars and 4 electric bass, so it's becoming more symphonic, and all needs to be compatible at any time.
And so
to make something which is music.
Yeah, and so on the guitar there were certainly intervals of fourths and fifths from what I could hear.
Exactly. Yes.
And
but this is a rock.
It's the idiom. It's a piece for rock. It's a rock music piece, basically.
Yes. Sometimes I have a blues.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so the process in that, did you try different tunings, or did you just go straight from?
I'm always each new version of the piece. I'm at the 16, and maybe there is 8 with guitars, and maybe no less, maybe 5 with coat hangers, and recently 2 years ago in Australia I did 5 big structure like octagon with like an instrument made in maple rock with piano pins to tune the harpsichord strings and to wang, but I can also decide that all the system, because tuning will not stay, I can also tune electronically the piece by feedback and amount of, I call that micro time pitch. This is my expression. So it depends on the delay you give, and put a big amount of, and you can adjust and tune the piece electronically. But I mean, for me, it's each time it's new work, so I restart from what I did last time, and there is no limit for the improvement. Maybe one day we'll say, okay, now it's down. I'm almost touching this point now. And for many of my works, it took long time, and people sometimes say, oh, you are showing again this piece, but it's not true. I have to keep in mind that I want as a result. I think it's a lot of work, because also you have to do all the work for the environment I'm creating, and many times it takes it all the time we have to for the installation, and then if there is some delay, the two last day adjusting the sound of the piece, which was supposed to be 10 days or a week. But recently in Paris, with these 10 guitars and for electric bass, they start 1 month ago. The birds arrive 3 weeks before the opening, so I had a lot of time to adjust it, and then maybe it's going to be more and more like that. But for many years I was frustrated because I had never time to finish what I wanted to do exactly, because it's each time you have to recall there is different piece, and I have to be in this atmosphere and in this atmosphere, and it's like you become a schizophrenic.
So I was thinking about the relationship between this piece and the piece with the stock ticker and the piano.
Yes, there is a relationship, because I decided a few years ago to create a new configuration using instruments which have their own history and are traditional and classical, and so I did piece for different guitars. Each time it's the freedom I took to use it in a new configuration to make a kind of sonic or music I want. For example, one of the first was using a 12 string guitar, acoustic guitar, with the different element of the musician, which was microphone, a tape recorder, as in the before you had all the computing system to make sound. So I hang from the ceiling with the cable. I connect the microphone and the guitars. The tape recorder was hang at this I found the balance point to hang it perfectly balanced, and the guitar was maybe 4 meters, 5 meters in the same axe, and I use the tape to make a bow, pulling by the tape recorder, like a loop of tape, and to make them vibrate. And the microphone was floating up to the guitar, and then it makes a piece which is its name is frame, because it's a frame. And this was very no, I saw that maybe if there is some how do you call extraterrestrial?
Aliens.
Aliens, yes, who discover all human society when everything will be finished, no future. They will find this thing, but they have no end to play. They know that this is to make music, and they found a new way to play them. And it gives to people, when you see that, I mean, it's very pedagogic in a certain way. I mean, in sense of you can use the things which exist to make them a little bit escape to what they use. I mean, de leur usage formaté from or they are used traditionally to make things, as the vacuum cleaner with the harmonica. So it's like, it's very interesting, because as a musician, how can I make something which is very new? I had to answer to this question. I know what I can do on the piano. And there is so many people who are playing and they think but they don't do that. It's a hobby. I take it very seriously. For me, it's so for the piano, for example, the first issue was to have a network of computer working on their email, what they have to do on their computer, textual activities, and I took them to fit this piano, and it means that first of all I escaped from this old history of couple, the pianist and the piano, not to make something which is human, and it's collective. A piano is never played in some of the contemporary or modern period piece, maybe what's the name of this Argentine composer, very interesting. He was part of Fluxus. He did a piece where a pianist has to share the space with the drummer in the pianos and create some conflict to make this music. But usually a piano is can be for hands, but usually it's not collective. It's a history of couple. So, and also I like the idea of non-intentional activity become music.
So the birds aren't musicians in this piece?
I don't think it's very difficult to know. I will never confirm that I think that they are doing it intentionally. They clean their beak. I think a very serious study should be made, maybe with many generations of finches living and birth into this sound environment.
This reminds me of another work of yours called Action Dog, where you had tape players strapped to various dogs in a public space. And it also is intriguing to me, the use of animal movement or animal decisions.
Yes, it's very interesting because I wanted to work on the spatialization process, and you can move sound, but why? You know, it's an effect. You move sound, and since I did the piece with the sparrows, I wanted I was confident to let the dogs go by themselves. But this was a little bit, I was interested to meet some people who own dogs and to convince them to participate to the thing. It was just for one night, a kind of performance, and this, maybe a large part of the work was to convince seven owners of dogs I met in the street, come with me, and we had to try the system I did to put the tape player on the back of the dogs. Also because when I was a kid I was very afraid by dogs, and the way to put something on their back, it's like it was a kind of therapy for me. And but this sound was not, for example, I was almost ready to buy a dog, and this was a bull terrier. I don't know what you call that.
Oh.
They
Terrier. I don't know dogs very well.
It's not like.
It's a French bull terrier. It's the same.
French.
Yes.
French
Okay.
bull terrier.
And then, but some of them, it was to make a piece with a big feedback effect of microphone. But some of the white ones, which are albinos, are deaf. They don't. So I wanted to share my life with a dog, but I can't sleep in the same room with a dog. It's impossible for me. I mean, it's like a communication between the organisms is too much. I mean, you know, a dog, even if it's, I mean, almost, you have to find a way to communicate with him. This was passioning, but finally I had no courage to buy one. It's quite expensive, and then if it doesn't work, I don't know. And also what I put on for this piece, Action Dog, just for one night or 2 nights, it was the sound of the human activity, like cooking, eating, without words, washing, make the dish, clean your apartment. And I did a very long and very good soundtrack of each of these activity, and went to the mixer and open, close, as I was a machine. I had a predetermined speed, not then revealing the sound each time I open the fader and closing, and then like that for hours, each sequence independent. And I put all these things together, and it makes a very invisible shape in the space. And I try to put on this back of this dog, but suddenly people think, oh, you want to, it's a, comment on dit, manifestation?
Manifestation.
Yes, it's, non, il y a pas d'autre.
Dans le contexte de...
Yes, because Jacques Chirac, our president, restarts...
Protest.
Yeah, a protest. He wanted to restart les essais atomiques, atom test in Mururoa. So, and people thought that I was doing things like that, which is not. But I mean, this equation of the dog with who is living under the, finally the domination of the human was not exactly what I wanted to. For me, it was just a vehicle to make them sound. All this is question because in new music, people are producing spatialization, but it's very difficult. You can move sound in. There is so many possibilities. If you have 12 sources, and then what does it mean? I'm sure that it exists a chromatism of the space, but this needs to be a subject for one life. As it exists a sound chromatism of color, you can move the sound and have even the transposition of Johann Sebastian Bach suite or something like sonata or what you want, with just one tone moving in the space. But this should be. I had this project long time ago. All my life is like that. I try to answer to question I have also. Only, yes. Can we do this? Before, for the first year of my activity, I was referring to, main or generic idea about what is the complexity, what is all the, for example, what is the relationship between text and music. But finally, when I start to answer to my own question, finally it's concern much more people, what I found. This is interesting. Not to follow what are the general question of your time, but just do it. And sometimes it's synchronized to it happened that now the Finch's piece is very successful, and it has been since the beginning, because also I take care of the Finch a lot. They need to be in the space where they have never been before. The condition not, I will never put a cage. Some people ask me, you can create a small aviary, nobody, but people will turn around. I will not. Same thing with fish, I did work with fish. I don't think you can, use nature like that.
It's a shame that we didn't have a chance to walk through the installation. So we all just sat in one spot and watched.
Yes, here, but for public it was, so the woman who did, Ariane Michel, who did the video film, wanted to be alone and to take the point of view of what she feel as a bird position. Is the reason I have the close-up, so see, but, and also sometimes it can be, I have so many rush of different installation I did, but I never had time to edit them and to make film myself. So I did some of them, and now it's not so interesting to have people who are doing things. Sometimes I can invite people to perform as no dancer, but somebody I like very much in this environment. For many years I can't do that. I wanted to have any connection with other work, but now it's open for me a new field and new perspective to see what people can use this environment with the birds.
Should we open up to questions? Actually, I would just like to pose a question about the zebra finches, your choice in these birds. I think earlier, Jeff, you were saying that they're very social kind of birds, and so, I mean, the visual and...
You know, the choice are very, you don't know the choice. Many times you make a choice, you don't know it is a choice, and it becomes a choice. For example, I'm living in a place where it took for me 8 years to know that I did the good choice. But when I went, I was in New York, there were a piece made by the French artist, who is quite famous, in the show at So Guggenheim. And his name is, yes, Marc Bustamante is a photographer. He's showing also in New York. I have a gallery, Matthew Mark's gallery. And it is a very design cage for these birds, like a constructivist object, very nice, like from the beginning of the Russian modernism, painted in white. And he puts this object and with just one bird in each of them. So this bird needs to be very close from one to another. And it was a big scandal that they closed the installation, something was. And when I went to the pet store, I saw it was a less expensive bird. And also maybe I found them good size. And I say, okay, I'm going to do something else. It's not because this French artist did something bad. So I choose them like that. But finally, I discovered that Charles Darwin did a lot of study about the beak of the finches in different continents. And then it's like many things are come to feed my imagination too. Also, when I did the piece in Australia, where these finches are coming from Galapagos, you have in Galapagos, and also Australia. The Finches Society was part of the progress of the project, in Brisbane, and they brought us also some other species which are compatible with the finches. It was very with the zebra finches. This was very interesting to have people who really enjoy and take care of the birds. They know how to do that, and but they also asked me if I was open to have some other species, but and this makes a lot of different interaction between the different bands. There were 5 different kind of finches in this space. Yeah.
Can we open up to questions?
Yes. The principal feature, of course, in this film was to contrast the apparent randomness of the bird's activity and the human artifacts, the guitar with a particular tuning, and the speakers. But I wonder, in editing this, what guided you in deciding what to keep and what to exclude?
Sorry, can you repeat the end of the...
Well,
what kind?
What guided you? What was your purpose in deciding when you edited the film?
I didn't. It's not me.
Oh, no.
It's Ariane Michel. I opened the space, and because we like very much her work as an artist, video artist, it was open. And then since she shot my installation, it's indirect collaboration. I did another film, which is 22 minutes, from a big project I had in 2002 at Les Beaux-Arts de Paris. And this has been made by somebody else, and I took part to edit the film. But I don't want to do that now. I let people do what they want. And sometimes, even on the web, I can find very good sequences. People who did things for Domus Academy in Italy recently last year, because they were a show in in Angarbicocca in Milano, and some other things I can find it's very good now. And I don't have to decide what I'm going to promote on my work. So my work is my work, and I'm not going to do film. I did it so much to document the work before. Now I'm not interested on it, and I wait for somebody to make a LP things. Many times people ask me, I say, well, no problem, come and make a. If you sing, I thought long time that you cannot have only the music, but now it's possible. I mean, not here. This was 7 years almost in 2007. Only 3 guitars. It was a big success for public. There was a lot of people. It was yeah. But I mean, now I'm approaching the way where I can say yes, you can record it properly, but you need to put the microphone before the beginning of the show, of the exhibition, of the exploitation, because each time you introduce a new object into the aviary, the finches are looking like that, and it's modify a lot their behavior.